Good morning. Thank you for being here with us on this consequential day. I'm happy to walk you through the budget I'll introduce this afternoon, a budget being delivered on the very day that we face unjustified tariffs from our biggest trading partner and closest ally. We've heard from the Premier about BC's response because we know that these tariffs will hurt. President Trump's tariffs could put tens of thousands of British Columbians out of work, significantly impact our province's finances, and harm people on both sides of the border. Our economy is built to withstand this economic threat better than most other provinces, but the impact will be severe. Budget 2025 is about standing strong for BC and making sure that the public services are there when we need them. Budget 2025 is a Made in BC plan to secure a bright future by tapping into our strengths. It's about managing finances carefully and creating the wealth that we need to protect public services and deliver good-paying jobs, so people here can thrive no matter what the world throws at us. Our budget focuses on improving healthcare and education by connecting more people to a family doctor and building good neighborhood schools for our kids, supporting good jobs, and to grow a more self-sufficient economy by driving investment, speeding up major projects, and diversifying trade partners. We're building up critical infrastructure like roads and bridges, transit that keep people and our economy moving, reducing costs for families, and making our neighborhoods and our communities safer. Before we get into the details of the upcoming budget and three-year fiscal plan, I will briefly discuss the updated forecast for the current fiscal year. The current third quarter forecast shows a deficit of $9.1 billion for 24-25, which is $273 million lower than the deficit forecast in the second quarter. There are several changes: higher corporate income tax revenue from the 2023 tax year, partially offset by other tax and natural resource revenue declines, including the capital gains exclusion, which was previously included in the forecast. Higher commercial Crown net income for ICBC due to stronger than expected investment earnings. On the spending side, there's higher statutory spending related to disaster recovery and other housing-related spending such as long-term care. Our full year report on actuals 2024-25 will come out in the summer as part of our public accounts. BC has been an economic leader in Canada and ranked first among provinces in real GDP growth in 2023 at 2.4%. In 2024, economic activity in British Columbia moderated, with some sectors showing signs of slowing. The federal government has also released its immigration levels plan, which will result in slower population growth and poses a risk to the economic outlook. Of course, the U.S. tariffs are the most significant risk to the outlook. The number of jobs in BC increased by 66,100 in 2024 compared to 2023. BC's unemployment rate averaged 5.6% in 2024 overall and has edged up in recent months. In January 2025, BC's unemployment rate reached 6%, and was the fourth lowest among provinces. BC's population increased by 2.2% October 2024. This growth was due to strong international migration. On October 24th, 2024, the federal government announced that the 2025 to 2027 immigration levels plan will set admission targets for the number of new permanent residents as it plans to admit each year. For the first time, the plan also includes admission targets for new temporary resident arrivals. According to the federal government, Canada's population growth is forecasted to decline over the next 2 years, which poses a risk to the economic and fiscal outlook while potentially reducing some demand for services. Consumer spending remains weak. Retail sales were up just 0.2% in 2024, following a 0.1% decline in 2023. This reflects high interest rates and the impact of high prices, which have reduced demand and purchasing power. While costs continue to be high for people, total inflation has come down from the peak of 8.1% in May of 2022 to 2.2% in January of 2025. Shelter inflation at 4.1% remains above the headline rate. The Bank of Canada has lowered interest rates 6 consecutive times, and the overnight target rate is currently set at 3%. Private sector economists expect rates to come down further. On the construction side, housing starts remain strong, above the 10-year historical average at 41,431 units. However, they were down 9.2% in 2024 at 45,828 units, compared to the record high observed in 2023, 50,490 units. This is partly due to elevated interest rates, skilled labor shortages, and increasing construction costs. Housing market activity was subdued in 2024. Home sales were up 2.2% in 2024. The average home sale price has been relatively flat and was up 1% from last year. Regarding trade, the value of goods exports were down 3% in 2024. Exports declined mainly due to lower commodity prices, particularly for natural gas and for coal. Declines were partly offset by gains in exports of metallic mineral products, and the threat of U.S. tariffs is no longer a threat. U.S. tariffs pose a risk, of course, to the outlook for BC's trade sector. Small business confidence in BC remained somewhat muted in 2024 as most small businesses noted insufficient demand and skilled labor shortages as the primary barrier to business growth. In January 2025, the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses highlighted that at the national level, the ongoing certainty from U.S. tariff threats is weighing on small business confidence, they say, and creating challenges for planning and decisions around operations. This chart shows the Ministry of Finance's forecast for BC real GDP compared to the private sector forecast from the Economic Forecast Council as of February 4th, 2025. At that time, given the uncertainty around tariffs, these forecasts do not include the direct impact of tariffs, but they have factored in some of the impact that the uncertainty of tariffs was having on the economy. BC's economy is generally performing as expected. However, there are two key factors impacting the outlook since the fall 2024 update. First is the expectation of lower international migration, which reflects the federal immigration levels plan announced October 2024. Second is the heightened uncertainty for businesses and households because of tariffs. As such, the ministry projects real GDP growth of 8.1% in 2025 and 9.1% in 2026, down from previous projections of 1.9% and 2.3% respectively. The ministry's forecast for BC real GDP growth rate matches the average of the February 4th Economic Forecast Council seen in the near term. Over the medium term, the ministry forecast is within the range of those EFC projections. While putting together this budget, tariffs were, of course, a moving target. We have prepared two scenarios to anticipate their impacts, the one that you saw on January 16th, and now the one that is included in the budget document. The scenarios have different starting points or base cases, along with different assumptions. The January 16th scenario was based on the fall update and assumed broad-based 25% US tariffs on all goods from Canada and Mexico, and that full retaliation by Canada, that is 25% tariffs on 100% of US goods. Since then, the US and Canadian governments have made various announcements related to tariffs and tariff response, including those of this week. The Budget 2025 scenario starts with the economic forecasts used for the budget as the base case. And as you saw in previous slides, our updated forecast includes heightened uncertainty, updated population projections, and other data updates. The new scenario assumes 10% US tariffs on Canadian energy products and 25% US tariffs on all other goods from Canada and Mexico, rather than 25% across all products. It also differs from the January scenario in only assuming partial retaliation by Canada and less than half of the goods imported from the US, consistent with the federal government's initial retaliatory plans and what has been announced today. It also assumes federal government supports are provided to households and businesses, as we have heard the Prime Minister promise today, and that the Bank of Canada lowers interest rates. The Budget 2025 scenario assumes tariffs are imposed starting March 2025 and remain until 2029. This table shows the impacts of tariffs in each scenario, which represents a possible range of impacts of US tariffs on BC's economy and finances. This is still just two scenarios, but we know that the Budget 2025 scenario is in fact what is being implemented now. You'll see the following results from the new assessment. A cumulative real GDP loss of approximately $43 billion between 2025 and 2029. 45,000 fewer jobs by 2029. Unemployment rate still increases while corporate profits would decline significantly, and government revenues are expected to decline by up to $1.4 billion annually. These results are less severe when compared to the previous scenario, partly because of the assumed tariffs are less severe, although remaining severe, and also because the Budget 2025 base case already builds in some of the uncertainty regarding tariffs. I want to be very clear that these tariffs, along with other changes in the economy, were already impacting our economic and revenue forecasts. If the budget economic forecast is combined with the new scenario coming to fruition, the cumulative impact on provincial revenues could be a decline of $3.4 billion annually. To put that into perspective, that is more than the budget for most ministries, with the exception of health, education, and social development. Those are the services we're protecting in this budget. It is also important to note that the impacts to BC's economy may actually be beyond the range shown here. If federal support measures are less than projected, if Canada's retaliation escalates, and if the level of US tariffs are higher due to stacking, the impacts will be even more significant. This shows the considerable amount of uncertainty regarding tariffs and the federal response. As you've heard from the Premier, this is our three-part response to President Trump's tariffs, which includes picking up the pace on reviewing and permitting major natural resource projects that are ready to move forward, introducing new legislation to ensure rapid permitting and robust regulation for renewable energy projects, a trade and economic security task force that includes BC's largest business organizations, labor, and Indigenous leadership, and a cabinet committee coordinating the whole of government approach that we're taking to defend BC's workers, businesses, and the economy. This morning, you heard the Premier promise we would move swiftly to remove liquor from red states from BC shelves, and that we will fill any gaps in the federal response. We'll also work to support forestry workers and forestry communities impacted by unjust softwood duties. Now, let's move to the budget and fiscal plan. Budget 2025 makes significant investments to meet the growing needs of BCers and to secure a stronger, more secure British Columbia for everyone. Government revenues are forecast to grow from $82.9 billion this year to $88 billion in 27-28. Taxation revenue growth is moderated due to the increased tariff risk and impact. Taxation revenue projections reflect the estimated impact of new budget 2025 taxation revenue measures. Natural resource revenue projections reflect an expectation of higher natural gas prices and production volumes. The three-year fiscal plan provides an additional $9.9 billion for ministry-based budgets, mostly to maintain critical services in health, in education, in social services, in justice, and in public safety. Total expenses also includes an allocation of $4 billion annually in contingencies to help manage unexpected expenses, like higher demand for services, costs for the new collective bargaining mandate, and emerging priorities, which could include initial tariff response measures. While deficits are higher compared to budget 2024, they are projected to decline over time. We continue to prioritize critical services during this period of slower economic growth and introduced expenditure management targets through operational and administrative efficiencies. The capital plan includes $45.9 billion for taxpayer-supported capital investments like hospitals, schools, and transportation projects, as well as $14 billion in self-supported projects, which are mainly BC Hydro projects. The province's taxpayer-supported debt is estimated at $97.7 billion this year and projected to reach $166 billion at the end of the fiscal period. Other key metrics. Taxpayer-supported debt to GDP ratio is 22.9% this year, which is expected to grow, as you can see in this table, though to remain lower than many other provinces. This debt will finance the operating and capital investments we need now, and our debt burden remains manageable. I'll speak more on fiscal sustainability shortly. This budget focuses on strengthening and protecting the services people rely on. This includes building on actions underway to expand access to family doctors and recruit and train more healthcare professionals to ensure that every British Columbian can access the care they need no matter where they live. Budget 2025 provides $4.2 billion over the next 3 years to support the full range of health services, including primary and acute care services, long-term care and community care services, and mental health and addictions care. New funding also supports the opening and operation of new and renovated hospitals and healthcare facilities across the province. This includes the new St. Paul's in Vancouver, the Royal Columbian Hospital redevelopment in New Westminster, the Mills Memorial Hospital and replacement in Terrace, the Royal Inland Hospital enhancements in Kamloops. The budget also provides $3.4 billion more over 3 years to prioritize critical services in education and for cultural and social services. It supports hiring more teachers, including special education teachers, school psychologists, and counselors to build a strong future for our kids. And protecting critical services means that we continue to support those who help through children and family services, providing income supports and delivering services to adults with developmental disabilities. Funding also supports commitments under the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act to work in partnership with First Nations on shared interests, like supporting the preservation of First Nations languages and cultures. This budget also provides targeted new investment to build a stronger economy for everyone. It includes $30 million over 3 years to continue the Integrated Marketplace Initiative, first launched as part of Stronger BC Economic Recovery Plan, to help companies scale and expand to new markets. Budget 2025 also includes $95 million to maintain critical highway and bridge infrastructure across BC and $47 million to support community transportation services provided by BC Transit. Safe and reliable access to transportation supports not only the economy, but people as well. This slide outlines key enhancements to BC's tax credits designed to bolster economic growth, attract investment, and support sectors and jobs critical to the province's future. First, we are enhancing the film tax credits with extra incentives specifically targeted at Canadian productions. In addition, we are introducing a major productions bonus tax credit of 2% for projects with BC production costs of greater than $200 million. Both will help attract high-quality projects while supporting good, high-paying jobs in British Columbia's vibrant film and television series sector. Next, we are increasing the interactive digital media tax credit and making it permanent. This will provide long-term stability and encourage sustained investment in our growing tech and digital media industries. We are also increasing the small business venture capital tax credit. This change will make it easier for startups and small businesses to attract the private investment that they need to grow and to thrive. To address the ongoing demand for skilled workers, we're extending the training tax credit for apprentices. Finally, to further strengthen BC's position in critical minerals, we are extending the new mine allowance for 5 years. This gives operators more time before a tax applies by letting operators claim capital expenditures they made before the mine begins commercial operations. Mines that enter into production on or before December 31st, 2030 will be eligible for the allowance. This is vital as global demand for critical minerals, essential for the clean energy technologies, continues to grow. Since 2017, helping people with costs has been a key priority for the province, and yet families everywhere continue to feel stretched by the rising cost of living. Budget 2025 provides targeted relief that builds on work already underway. First, a new ICBC rebate will be delivered to eligible drivers anticipated in April 2025. All personal and commercial ICBC customers who had an active eligible basic insurance policy in January 2025 will receive the rebate, totaling roughly 3.7 million policies. This budget also provides new investments for the BC Builds program. New funding will support more projects and contribute towards thousands of new middle-income rental units. Budget 2025 is also providing $375 million over 3 years to increase rental supplements for lower-income families and seniors, the RAP and SAFER programs. These changes are expected to nearly double the number of families eligible for supports from around 3,200 families to almost 6,000 families, with the average amount of support increasing from $400 per month to $700 per month. The change also means that an estimated 25,000 seniors will be eligible for the seniors program, who on average will see a nearly 30% increase to their monthly supports. Budget 2025 also prioritizes community safety as a critical service. There is $90 million more over the fiscal plan to support people living in unsafe encampments through the Heart and Hearth programs, which aim to resolve encampments and help people move inside. Funding will support the Justice Institute of BC Police Academy to expand training capacity for police recruits from 192 to 288 officers per year. That's a 50% increase. We are also launching a new community safety and targeted enforcement pilot program. The program will specifically target robbery, shoplifting, theft, and property related offenses through new tools and resources to tackle street disorder and protect businesses and jobs. The budget also provides $168 million more over 3 years to support timely access to justice and build capacity for police services, the courts, and other important safety programs. Capital investments over the 3-year plan are $45.9 billion in budget 2025. Our capital plan will deliver more schools, healthcare facilities, housing, and the transportation infrastructure that people rely on to support a growing BC. All of these investments strengthen our economy by directly and indirectly supporting 180,000 jobs over the next 3 years while addressing infrastructure needs for now and into the future. Maintaining debt affordability relative to our peers is an important fiscal anchor for our government. BC's net liabilities to GDP ratio remains favorable compared to other provinces, but there's work to do to help flatten growth over the near term with the longer-term goal of returning to a balanced operating budget. Budget 2025 supports this work by introducing $1.5 billion in expenditure management targets over the fiscal plan period. This will be achieved through administrative and operational efficiencies, including limiting discretionary spending and pausing hire in the BC Public Service, with the exception of critical frontline services. This budget is being released. I don't need to tell anyone here, we're all deeply aware of the incredible uncertainty and now the reality of tariffs from the US. There's also tremendous geopolitical uncertainty. This makes economic and fiscal forecasting increasingly complex and challenging. These risks are mitigated somewhat by the prudence that's been built into the plan, including economic prudence and external assumptions, conservative natural gas pricing, and $4 billion each year in the contingencies vote for the fiscal plan. The ministry will continue monitoring and building in new information about spending, revenue, and the economy through the quarterly reporting process as things change and evolve. At a time when the world is feeling uncertain and people are bracing for tariffs, our government is standing up for British Columbians. We're shoring up the services that people rely on by investing through Budget 2025 into healthcare so that people can get the help that they need when they need it, whether it's primary care, acute care, or cancer care. We're making our communities safer for people, increasing police training seats, and creating a new program to target property crimes, as well as providing housing and supports to resolve encampments. And we're investing in infrastructure, including schools, hospitals, roads that create strong, connected communities. We're building a stronger economy by diversifying trade with partners that we can depend on. And we're fast-tracking, accelerating projects and working with industry, labor, and First Nations. We are so lucky to live in what I think is the best province in the greatest country in the world. We're in for tough times, but we are standing strong for BC, working with communities, workers, and businesses to strengthen our economy to create a BC where everyone can thrive. Thank you.